In June 1981, the Humber Ferry service sailed for the last time on the same day that the Humber Bridge opened to traffic. On the very last service of the evening, Radio Humberside was there to capture the moment. So here's what happened in a programme introduced by Barry Stockdale, Robin Pulford and Mike Cartwright.
The Humber Ferry this evening sails for the final time, carrying fare-paying passengers. We invite you to join us for the final crossing of the Humber on the good ship Farringford.
Good evening from me, Barry Stockdale. You join me on board the diesel engine paddle vessel, the Farringford, as we approach Hull Corporation Pier for the final time carrying cars. As you just heard, later this evening we'll berth for the final time carrying fare-paying passengers. With the help of Robin Pulford and Mike Cartwright, we shall bring you the thoughts and memories of the crew of the Farringford and past Humber paddle steamers as the service ends. The service, of course, began 178 years ago. The opening of the longest single-span suspension bridge in the world sounds the death knell for the ferry service and redundancy for the few crew who are left. During the programme this evening, I think that you'll find that the crew have mixed emotions. Some have worked for 3 weeks without a break, many have memories, some happy, some of them sad, all of them worth listening to. There are some 500 people expected on board for this final cruise, and I'm afraid the weather isn't being too kind to us at the moment. It's cloudy, it's a little on the windy side, and a threat of rain in the air too, but that isn't dampening the spirits of anyone on board so far. The vessel has actually been decked out in flags, especially for the occasion, and we hope it'll be one to be remembered. So I'm on the Farringford as it approaches Hull Corporation Pier, but Robin Pulford himself has been attempting to buy a ticket.
Thank you, Barry, and it's a night of nostalgia for me. At the moment, I'm not quite at the ticket office. I've just walked out of Lowgate, and if I stop and look behind me, I can see the busy traffic coming off the Myton Bridge, which is Progress 1980s style here in the old town of Hull. Rather more ancient is King Billy's statue. I can see him up there, all gold and shining. And behind him, there's Holy Trinity Church, which remains unchanged forevermore throughout the centuries. But things do change, and change quite rapidly. And just to the left of where I'm standing now, along Humber Street, I can see the new tidal surge barrier looking magnificent in the evening light. Humber Street, of course, yes, nostalgia, Humber Street. I'm standing in the centre of it now, looking at names like the Consolidated Fruit and Potato Company of Hull Limited, Roberts and Almond. This is where, if you come during the day, you can see tomatoes, fruit and vegetable of all sorts, pineapples, grapes, everything laid out. This is where the wholesalers come and buy the fruit and vegetable for the whole of the area. This, in fact, is something which is important and very, very regional. And it's not far from Nelson Street. Nelson Street is the name of the street which is adjacent to the actual pontoon down which you go when you want to get onto the Farringford. I'm just soaking this up because it's the last time that anyone's going to be able to do it. It's definitely the last time that I'm going to be able to do it. I turn round the corner. It's a short street. There's the Farringford, dressed overall on the last day of its journeys to and from New Holland from the city of Hull. I'm stretching my neck to look at the clock and the sign which says Sea-Link Hull Corporation Pier. How many times have children been asked where you would find a railway station with no trains? Well, this is it. There's one or two other people waiting for a last ferry. There's a gentleman here. Perhaps he might be recognised to one or two of you, but are you just a casual sailor, sir?
Very much a casual sailor, yes. Just taking my two children for a ride before the ferry closes.
So it's a last nostalgic trip for you?
That's about it, yeah.
I'll let you get your tickets.
Okay.
And he's just about to get his tickets. And his youngster seems to be very excited. Are you looking forward to a trip on the ship?
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Robin, and you join us just as the Farringford has docked for the final time, and the third to last car is just driving off. It's a white Cortina. We talked about cars driving into history this morning. Well, this evening we're talking about more cars driving away from history. The second to last car now is just reversing. It's an Ascona Opel. It's turquoise in colour. I'm just about to have a word with the gentleman inside. Hello, could I ask for your name, sir?
My name's Alan Dean.
Now,
Oh,
this will be the final time you're driving off the Farringford. How do you feel about
I
that?
feel very sorry about it.
Very sorry about it indeed.
Do you use the vessel regularly?
I have done, yes. Not so much since they opened the M62 bridge, but many times before that.
Well, thank you very much indeed for talking to me. Will you be using the Humber Bridge in the future?
Not a great deal, quite frankly, but there we are. I'd rather use the ferry.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks a lot.
And the second to last car now leaves the ferry, and the final car to leave the ferry is a red Datsun. He drives round in front of me. It's a lady and a gentleman. I shall move across and ask for a very quick word. You're the final car to leave the ferry. How do you feel about that?
It's very nostalgic for me. I've been using it for 7 or 8 years and I shall be sorry to see it go.
The service has been in operation for 178 years and you're the final vehicle to leave it.
My word.
I wonder if I can go back to Robin now, who's waiting at the other end of the gangway for to actually board the good ship Farringford. Robin.
Thank you very much, Barry. I've got with me a gentleman called Jack Hill. He's just about to do one of the most important tasks in his life. Jack, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Now, you're the man who actually collects the tickets and clips them and all that sort of
I don't
thing.
normally, I'm the station foreman normally, but we're assisting today on account of the extra people what's coming.
Now, when are you going to let the waiting crowds on board?
We're going to let them down as soon as I get away from down there. Certainly.
There we are, there's a gentleman getting off. Are you letting them keep their tickets
I'm letting them
today?
get the tickets if they want them.
So these are going to become collector's items?
In a few years down, they'll be collector's items, these
Right.
tickets.
How do you get the secret message from the Farringford to say that you can then let on these special passengers?
There should be somebody down there in a couple of seconds will wave to me like that.
And so you're waiting for
I'm
a
waiting
flag,
for the
something
flag,
like that?
just hand to go up and then they'll all go down.
Right, so here we are at the top of, what do you call this? It's a ramp, isn't it?
It's a ramp, yeah, top of the ramp.
Goes down to the pontoon.
Yes, correct, yeah.
We can just see part of the Farringford at the bottom. It's about 100 yards to go down. And Jack, you'd better watch out for that signal. And I'll be going down with the first people as they go through. And good heavens, what have we got here? My goodness, I love you, she says. And it says driver conductor, and she's got a funny hat on. She's a very attractive lady, and she's first in the queue. What's your name, please?
Beryl Featherstone.
Why are you dressed with this splendid country and western style hat on?
I'm a country western fan.
Oh, I see. Are you going to be singing on the ship?
I'll sing with all the passengers, yes.
Are you any good at singing "We Are Sailing," da 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 da, and all that sort of thing?
No, but I'll have a go.
I see. So you've got in fancy dress. Here's a lady. She's wearing some. May I open your coat, madam, and expose your T-shirt, which says Humber Ferry Service, 1981 from 1832. What's your name, madam?
Mrs. Clark.
And you're obviously a fan of the Farringford.
Oh, yes.
Have you travelled a lot across the Humber?
No, I'm the manageress of the Marine Cafe.
Oh, the famous Marine Cafe, where you serve up those sausage rolls
Oh, yes.
and sandwiches.
And tea.
And I've
That
had...
famous cafe.
Madam, you don't know it, but I've had many of your sandwiches in the past.
Yes.
So keep up the good work.
I will.
Are you going to continue to run the cafe
Oh,
after
yes.
it's all closed?
Yes.
Yeah. So even though there won't be ships going to and from, you'll
No,
still
but
be
we've
serving.
got the marina to look forward to.
So you're looking forward to a
Oh,
big,
yes, very
a big
much
future.
so. Yes.
What's your favourite dish when it comes to, well, not your favourite dish, but what do they want most when they come to see you?
Chip butties.
Chip butties.
Not
Ah,
Yorkshire pudding. Roast beef and Yorkshire pudding.
roast
Chip
beef and
butties.
Yorkshire pudding and chip butties. The ferry.
Across all our lives, from being babies in a pram.
My
My
goodness.
mother came from New Holland.
So this is very special for you.
Was the engineer on the boat,
On the old
on the old ferries.
What do you
Before
think of
the
the
war,
Farringford?
during
Is the
the war.
Farringford as good as the old steamer?
No, definitely not.
Well, here we are. You're almost at the bottom of the gangway now. Lots of cameras out and a little bit of singing going on as well. And also Barry Stockdale's over there somewhere. Barry Stockdale, can you see me?
I can't actually see you, but my goodness, Robin, I can hear you. I can see you!
This is Jock Burns,
That's
is it?
Jock Burns. Yeah. Now, he's been looking out
How
for
do
you all
make
day.
how do you make sure, Jock, that you get all these tickets right?
Look at the colours.
He looks at the colours.
I'm not colourblind.
But they're all blue and white, Jock.
They're all blue, that's it.
Have you checked mine? He hasn't checked mine because I haven't got one with me at the
Well,
moment.
Jock's in a very good mood this evening. He'll let anyone on.
There's a gentleman here who's about to be arrested for being what he is.
Spare a copper with your Rogers
Now, we were talking about music a few moments ago. Unfortunately, Clive Hunter's arrived. Wearing his Radio Humberside badge. And a little note which says wife and 10 taxmen to support.
Thank you very much, sir. All contributions gladly received. I've got a bridge to build.
That's the first time you've been paid for entertaining anyone, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Usually they pay me to stop.
That's right. How much have you made?
Well, 14 pence up to now. That's not bad, you know. It's double the BBC's money.
With me now is a lady who has been asking for a request all evening. Now, you're from New Holland, aren't you?
No, Barton Humber.
Barton upon Humber.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate because you will actually only be with us for half of this evening's cruise, won't you?
That's all, yes, love.
That's from Hull back to New Holland,
Yeah.
and then home to Barton.
Yeah.
How often have you used the ferry in the past?
Oh, quite regularly.
For what reasons? Shopping, business?
Shopping, yeah.
And will you miss the ferry when it
I
affects
will, yes, definitely.
Why? It's fairly expensive to go across to Hull, isn't it, from New Holland?
It's a nice day out. It's a nice day out.
Straight now up to the bridge as we almost ready to take the Farringford out from Hull Corporation Pier for the final time. Over to Mike Cartwright.
Yes, and we're just about ready to go up here, and standing next to me is the skipper, Charlie King. Charlie, this was obviously a very nostalgic occasion for you.
Yes, definitely. Yes, the very last sailing of the ferries after a reputed 150 years, and this is it. This is.
How long have you actually been skippering this particular vessel?
I've had this ship since 1974, which will be 7 years.
And are you actually moving out of the service, or will you be carrying on to another ship?
I'm moving to Portsmouth on the Isle of Wight ferries myself.
So you come from that area, I believe, don't you? So you'll not be too badly off, really.
I'm actually a Londoner, so I suppose I should be nearer to London than I am at the moment here.
Now, it's been a bit hectic up here on the bridge so far for you, John, isn't it? There's been hundreds of people sort of wandering in and out to have a last look at the bridge. You've been very patient so far.
Yes, well, one has to be. It's no good just flying off the handle. Got to put an appearance before the public, shall we say.
What are your feelings about this ferry? I mean, the Farringford is not exactly the, if you like, the most beauteous thing in the world, say in comparison with the old steamers. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. This is definitely a purpose-built ferry, originally designed for the Isle of Wight car traffic, and as I say, she's purely and simply a floating box to transport cars across the river, as opposed to the old paddle steamers, which were specifically designed passenger vessels.
Now, one thing I'll mention now, and we may get a word with her later, but your wife also works on the ferry, doesn't she, Brenda?
Yes, she works in the buffet, serving the drinks and refreshments.
Isn't that a bit difficult, a husband and wife team working in the same spot?
Well, we do get on very well. I suppose one could almost say we were living in each other's pockets, but I'm a fairly easygoing chap, so when she does fly off the handle a bit, I turn the other cheek, shall we say.
And no shortage of refreshments either?
No, there's usually a cup of tea there when I require it.
Now, as we're looking out the window here, you're just about ready to go, I think, are you?
Yes, we'll just cast off and then we'll carry on our conversation tonight.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll let you get on with it, Charlie. Yeah. And we're now just about ready to move away from Hull Corporation Pier. There we go, there's the signal going there. We're just about ready to cast off, and we should be moving any second now, as we're looking out through the flags there. I was saying just a few moments earlier, it's a particularly nostalgic occasion. I've made this journey many times, and I particularly enjoyed the journey across to the South Bank. Yes, the paddles are now turning, we are moving, we're heading out into the river. We're just turning away there, looking through the flags. She's just swinging out from the pier now, quite gently. The ferry itself, looking out from here, is absolutely packed with people. There are people wandering about slowly, waving to their friends on the pier there, which now, as we move away from the pier side, is absolutely packed out. Another signal coming now. And how about that for a melodious sound to say goodbye to Hull Corporation Pier for the time being? Again, the waves are going there. We're now well out into the river, just swinging across, going down slightly. The flag's flying away there in the breeze, and I think as we move out into the river, I'll now hand back to Barry Stockdale.
And you join me on the stern deck, Mike, and there are one or two streamers just flying about at the moment, and one or two Union Jacks as well. And the atmosphere as we leave Hull Corporation Pier, or Victoria Pier to give it its correct name, is absolutely electric. It's almost a party atmosphere. Clive Hunter's with his squeeze box over there, and a gentleman just come up to me with a great big grin on his face and said, Barry, I was lucky enough to get on the final sailing of the Farringford. He actually bought the last ticket. He bought the last ticket for this evening's celebration cruise. And at the other end of the vessel, out of sight of my particular view at the moment, should be Robin Pulford. Hello, Robin.
Hello, Barry. I'm at the sharp end, if you can call anything the sharp end on the Farringford, which of course is a double-ended ship. The way the Farringford is going across the river on this greyish evening, it's not very breezy down here because we're going about the same speed as the wind, which is coming from the north, and of course we're heading south. The bunting is hanging fairly slack, but it's blowing nicely out towards the Humber Bridge as though it's waving towards it in a gesture. Here's a gentleman who's standing taking it all in. Good evening to you, sir. May I just have a quick word with you? You're perhaps the man standing nearest to the front, next to this spur tyre, which is on this bollard here, next to the bunting. Are you taking it all in?
Oh yes, definitely, yes. It's a night to remember. Childhood memories was always Cleethorpes and things like that. That was all memorable, you know.
Can be quite a rough crossing sometimes, can't it?
And a long one if you get caught on a sandbank.
Have you ever been so? Tell us about that, because this is something which we often hear about, read in the papers. But what's it like?
It's just very annoying if you've got somewhere to go at the other side, or you know, you've got your bus to catch or a train to catch. It's just one of those things. It just happens now and again, and. With this ship it happened more than it did with the other two.
And when the ship runs aground in the middle of the river, do you get a bump and a bang, or does it just come to a halt?
Just comes to a halt, just slithers, and that's it.
And you have another cup of tea in the buffet?
That's correct, or a drink in the bar, whichever you like.
Thank you very much, sir. A seasoned traveller, one who has perhaps had the greatest privilege of all, being stuck on a mud bank in the middle of the River Humber on the Humber Ferry service. Now back to Barry, somewhere on the Farringford.
Yes, I'm on the stern car deck actually, Robin, at the moment. No cars on at the moment, apart from Radio Humberside's mobile studio. And standing with me at the moment is one of the engineers who's actually kept the Farringford running over the past couple of years. And am I right in saying, Peter Moore, that it's been difficult to keep the Farringford operating over the past couple of years?
Not so difficult. She's done a really fine job over the last few years that she's been running. She's maintained the service by herself, and we've had very few problems with her, except for a few minor details on the engine, which they used to have down south anyway. And of course, as you know, when she came up here, she was more or less ready for the scrap heap. But she's done a real good job, we've got to say that.
Now, when you first started working on the Humber Ferry service some 16 years ago, you were working on the Castles, the Wingfield, the Tattershall and the Lincoln.
Right.
Which vessel were you working on the most?
Well, I used to be on the Wingfield. My ticket covered the Wingfield, and I was on that the most. But of course, when we started an extended service for the workers in the morning, going at 6:30 to the refinery in Lincolnshire, we had to start swapping about, and so we had a system where we went on any boat when it was required. And mainly we used to work on the Hull boats, but sometimes we had to go on the New Holland boats as well. It's a bit nostalgic, but not so nostalgic as a lot of people might imagine, really. I think I'd seen enough of them after about 30 years.
But walking on any of those paddle steamers, I mean, the engines, they glistened, they looked absolutely marvellous. It looked as if the engineers really took a pride in them.
They was kept lovely and clean, and I think that it's a credit to all those that's worked on them.
How are your feelings this evening as the Farringford makes its final crossing of the river?
Well, it's a bit nostalgic, and at the same time it's a bit like a carnival, I believe, and I hope everybody's having a happy time, and I really think they're going to miss the ferries, but I think the bridge has a great future. I think you've got to give way to progress.
Peter Moore, engineer, Farringford, thank you very much indeed. Back to Robin now on the other end of the ferry.
Thank you, Barry. On the sharp end, as I've mentioned before, there's a gentleman with me at the moment who is undoubtedly a star. He's signing autographs on the back of these special tickets. It's Les Claxton, one of the, I suppose I could call him a deckhand, but he's a bit more than that. Evening to you, Les.
Good evening, Robin. Nice to meet you again.
How do you feel tonight?
Oh, great. Well, great, because we've got to accept what's happening. There was going to be a bridge when I was a little boy, and now it's a reality. And so I think this is life, and the sign of good time to come, you know.
How many years have you been plying to and fro?
35 years.
How many?
35 years.
35 years. Which ships did you work on to begin with?
Well, the Wingfield, the Tatterson and the Lincoln.
Did you prefer those to these?
Well, yes, because there's ships out there and these aren't, you know.
Now, Les, There must be a tale to tell. Every mariner like yourself must have had an incredible experience on the high seas across between New Holland and Hull. What's the best story you can tell
the best story I can tell you, it ended up in a laugh, but it didn't look like it when we sat having breakfast in the galley one morning, and there was a big voice shouted down, "Hey Les, there's a car over the side." So we all tell him to bog off, you know. We're busy reading page 3. And he came again and said, "There's a car over the side, Les." I said, "Oh, get off." And we thought it was really serious. So up we went, and over the side was a big jug swaying over the side like that. Engine inboard, and it happened to be a big carpet dealer at Grimsby. He's still on the go anyhow. And there it was, swaying. So the captain rushed up and told the captain he already seen it, but we got there and slowed the ship down, and we eventually crawled into New Holland, and we managed to drag it off onto the ship again, tore his bottom off nearly, but we got him ashore instead of dropping in the river. The biggest job of all, his biggest concern was all his money was in the car at the back, so he was looking at it. That was the thing I'll always remember, you know.
Of course, one of the difficulties with the New Holland ferries, the Hull to New Holland ferries, is that it's very, very tight to get a car on, isn't it?
Oh, yes, we show on them, you know.
What do you think of the average British driver?
Great.
They're all right, are they?
Yeah. And we get some very good lady drivers. We get the odd one or two who say, "Oh, I can't reverse, jump in and do it for me." They say it like that, you know.
Now, sometimes you've had them so packed on these ships that it's almost impossible to get the next one on. What's the secret of getting that little bit of space?
Well, we show on them in, you know. We go to the drivers and now then give it a couple of foot with somebody on, special money, get him on and all, and usually they're cooperating by doing this, you know. And this is what they do. Usually we find all our drivers on Humber Ferry have been very, very good indeed. We like them and I hope they like us.
Les Claxton, deckhand extraordinaire, thank you very much for sparing time to talk to us.
Thank you for allowing to talk to me. Thank you, sir.
And all the best, and may I say, for your future life, bon voyage.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Bye for now. Now back to Mike Cartwright, somewhere on the Farringford.
And in fact, on the bridge, Robin, and sitting with me is Charlie King. He's the skipper. He's just having his first sit down for quite a few hours, actually. He's looking very relieved about it. He's been signing handfuls of autographs, probably all afternoon and all evening, and he's also just navigated us across perhaps the trickiest part of the river, because in that particular part we've just come across it was very shallow, and we couldn't talk to him earlier because he was particularly busy with that. But I'd like to talk to you now, Charlie, about the problems that of crossing the Humber. It is quite a difficult one, isn't it, really? You have to set many different routes to come across.
Yes, well, there is a big mud bank. People refer to it as a sandbank, but actually it's mud. And it's right down the middle of the river between Hull and New Holland. And at high tide, we can go straight direct from Hull to New Holland, because the range of the tide here averages 20 feet, and we are 6 foot draft, which means the draft of the ship is the amount that is actually in the water. In this particular case, this ship, it's 6 feet. And of course, at high tide, when there's 20 feet of water over this mud bank, we make a direct crossing from Hull to New Holland, which is 2 miles, more or less. Now, as the tide goes out, obviously the water recedes, it drops, and the depth shallows. And we then have to decide when we leave Hull or New Holland, according to the state of the tide, if we're going to have enough water to cross this mud bank. If we think there isn't enough water, then we take this detour, which doubles the time of the journey from 20 minutes, anything from 45, 50, 55 minutes, depending on tide and weather.
That's when you head sort of down more towards the river estuary, in fact, and come round back that way.
Yes, we go down to King George Dock, which is the point at which we can cross this particular mud bank. There is sufficient water there, even at low tide, for us to cross the mud bank. And then, of course, we have to come all the way back up the other side of the river.
And of course you do have the odd trick or two, don't you, in lining things up. You were telling me a bit earlier about you sort of look at a tower on the skyline, and if you know that's in line with maybe your office, you're going across the right bit.
Yes, this is a good pointer for us. It's all local marks for the helmsman to steer by, and the particular instance you referred to is the Bond Street Tower office block. If we keep that in transit with our offices. When I say in transit, I mean in line. We know we're in the deepest part of the channel where the ship will safely go across. Now, if we underestimate the depth of water, and people know this has happened, then the ship does run aground, and much to the annoyance of passengers, which we can well appreciate. They have meetings, appointments, etc., and obviously they get very uptight about it.
So we're all very safe indeed tonight, I think, Barry Stockdale. It looks like we're going to get across safely. We've got a good skipper here.
The old ones. Thank you very much indeed, Mike, and of course Skipper Charlie King. And you join me on the car deck once again, and I've been in turn joined by Jock Burns and Jack Hill. Now, I must admit, I've known Jack for some time. I've handed my ticket to him on countless occasions. Jock, I've never seen you looking so happy.
Why not? You've got to be happy nowadays. There's nothing else left in life for you happy.
But after this evening, the Farringford stops running, and you won't have a job tomorrow morning.
And I'll be glad of a rest. I've just had a bit too much.
How long have you been working now without a break?
14 weeks.
And how many hours a day?
12 hours a day.
It's a long time.
7 days a week. It's just a bit too much.
But over the years
We've only done it just to try and get a service to get the work people there and get them back at night. That's why we had to make the 5:30 our last one, because 6 o'clock in the morning start to get them to work and get them back at 5:30.
Now, earlier this evening, Robin was talking to Les Claxon about the problems in getting the motorists on and off the boat. But I know you yourself have had one or two experiences in actually getting the people on and off the boat, people who have actually missed the boat and then attempted to catch it.
Yes, oh yes, with the one trying to jump on board when it was coming in, and he thought it was going out, and he landed in the river. Yeah, we got him out after, he must have been in the water 10 minutes, hanging onto the side of the ship, and it was dark night. And he just happened to, I heard somebody shouting, and I looked into the water in the dark, and I seen this hand sticking out the water. I couldn't believe my eyes. Anyway, we got him out.
How long ago was that then?
It must be 4 years ago.
And you had an experience, what, a couple of months ago when someone was sitting on one of the gates?
Yeah, one chap was sitting on the gate, and he made an effort to get down off the gate. He thought I was coming to check him, like, and he put 1 foot off to get off, and both feet came off, and they went backwards into the river. So I just gave the alarm straight away, and at that the crew was coming up, and they were just through going around checking to make sure everybody was awake on the last boat to get them off, clear the ship.
What will you miss about working on the Humber Ferry?
Yes, well, I've met a lot of good, and I have got on well with everyone. Both sides of the river, they've all been as nice as anything. We've had our laughs, we've had our jokes, you know, and we pull one another's leg, but still, I've got on marvellous with them. No complaints.
Presumably you won't miss the cold feet standing about at New Holland Pier waiting for the cars.
I will not. Standing in the snow and there's no blistering around you. I swear, one thing I'm quite pleased of, I won't have that to face another winter there.
So what happens after this evening then to Jock Burns?
Well, and I have 2 days off, but I've got to come in and take my balance off my money and my tickets and all that. I've got a couple of hours work in the morning, then I can have a couple of days rest.
Well, I hope you get those couple of days west. Obviously well-earned days. Thanks very much indeed, John.
Well, and the thing is, I've got to climb 1,400 steps every day.
1,400?
1,400. You count these steps, go that saloon up there, right round, along the bridge, back down there, down that saloon and back up. Every hour you do 100 steps, 98 steps to be precise.
Now most people only walk up from the car deck to the buffet, but as you say, you've got quite a ticket collecting round, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do you ever get any awkward customers?
Yes, I have, but I've managed to get round them because I don't believe in reporting anybody. They either come on, if you haven't got a ticket, I'm afraid you're not coming on, and I've got to be very strict and keep them off.
And also standing with me right now is Jack Hill, station foreman, who you might have heard Robin talking to a little earlier in the programme. Will you be sorry to see the Farringford berth for the final time, Jack?
Definitely, yeah. It's been a way of life, and we've really enjoyed it. It's not like the castle boats, but it's just been all right.
Why isn't the Farringford like the castle boats then?
Well, the castle boats were something of a ship. They were stately. Well, this one is just like well, it's blunt-ended, that's all I can say about it.
Over now to Mike Cartwright, who I think is up on the bridge ready to take us into New Holland Pier.
You're absolutely right, Barry. That's just where I am. In fact, I just said to you earlier, when I went over to you a bit earlier, that how safe we were and what a marvellous safe journey it was. And the skipper, Charlie King, has just pointed out to me that, in fact, a poor old barge out there in the middle has in fact gone aground. Anyway, we are now approaching New Holland Pier. I think perhaps the kindest thing you can say about it is it's older and longer than Brighton Pier. Perhaps sort of looking at it from this angle, it certainly is not exactly a pretty sight, but on the other hand, it does have that certain ruggedness about it. As we're bringing it in, Charlie, most people who travel on this ferry tend to think, I think, that this is one of the easiest operations, and they tend to get a bit irritated if it takes you just a few minutes longer to put it alongside. But obviously, as far as you're concerned, it's not as simple as all that, is it?
No, well, it does come easier with experience, of course, like any other job. And we do experience a lot of wind here and strong tides, and everything doesn't always go according to plan. Nobody's perfect, and we do sometimes make a little, faux pas, shall we say. I nearly swore there, but no, we're just coming in to New Holland now, and I'm slowing down, and I shall put the engines to stop any minute now, and then to full astern, which is our form of braking, and then with a bit of luck we should be safely alongside. The wind is favourable for us tonight. It's blowing from the north, which means it'll more or less blow us alongside.
What are you doing now, Charlie? You're just pulling the levers down
full
there?
astern now, which we're alongside the pontoon, and I put the engines to full astern to stop the ship going ahead.
And how are we doing now? Are we just about ready for putting the gangplanks down?
Yes, we're just about in position now. Just one more little touch astern, but we're just slightly ahead of our position. The seaman on the rope, on what we call the spring, will now make it fast, which will stop us right in position. And there we are now.
The gangplank's coming down. I'm on the front of the Farringford. It's been very exciting down here in the last few minutes while you've all been very cosy in the cabins and on the bridge. The sea has been coming over the front in great big deluges of water, and everybody's been shrieking and having a marvellous time, and we're all a bit wet and cold, but nevertheless we're all very excited. Some people are getting off here and not returning. There are others of us who are going to get off and try and have a look round at New Holland and try and get back on the boat before it disappears. I've got Jeff Reed with me. Jeff, good evening.
Good evening.
You know a thing or two about this operation here, this Humber Ferry service, because you've served with the ferries for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, just a few years, yes.
Tell us what you were doing.
Well, I started as an apprentice fitter in 1934, and had 6 years off during the war, and then I'm back again, and here we are, the lifetime.
Now, you were based in New Holland, weren't you?
Yeah, the ferry workshops, yes.
Why New Holland? I would have thought that Hull, being a big city, would have been the headquarters of the operation.
Well, you see, you've got to look back in history. It started at New Holland, the New Holland Ferry. It is not Hull Ferry.
That's what we all call it, yes.
Well, yeah, you see, all the ships are registered at Grimsby. And Grimsby were the people who ran the job. They were in charge of the ferry itself, but the actual administration was by the ferry foreman up at the workshops, and he ran the whole show just with a clerk.
Changes, of course, over the years.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of the way it's run nowadays?
As one of my old bosses said, "Oh, look at the overheads. Look at the overheads," he said.
You mean it was one man and a dog way back in the 1930s?
Yeah.
What ships were plying? What ships were plying on the line when you first?
Well, the Killingham and Brocklesby and the Frodingham, and at one time we had 4 ships, and we had so much workshop staff that you could put 3 ships into service, you know, without any trouble.
That's a big difference from today, when there's just the one, the Farringford, and
Hull Fair times when there were thousands of people from Boston and Spalding and all around that area coming to Hull Fair, and you would have 3 ships running full out.
Here on New Holland it's rather special because up this ramp in front of us, we're on the pontoon at the moment, up the ramp is a railway station.
That's right.
And no doubt the railway station was a very integral part of the operation years ago, before buses and so on. How important was it?
Well, there was a refreshment room down here and the booking offices down the bottom, and there were trains to Immingham, Barton and Grimsby, so they were busy all the time, you know, the steam trains, and when they came down here they used to have to reverse out back on the Barton branch to turn round, and then back down the pier ready for out.
Does it make you sad to see the ships in the last few years going across with just half a dozen people and a couple of cars on?
Well, I think they've price themselves out of the market.
Now, we've got to a place now which is really the journey's end for me tonight, because we are now standing and looking at New Holland Pier Station. It's not much of a thing these days, it's a bit derelict and run down, isn't it? Can you describe what the scene was like in the heyday of steam?
Well, for a start, there will be a chocolate boy walking up and down the platform, chocolates and cigarettes. And at the end of the platform was a W.H. Smith bookstall. But going back before then, before they altered this pier in 1925, they told me there were refreshment rooms on both sides of the platform down here.
Was it busy?
Oh, yes. And an awful lot of what they called the commercial travellers in those days, because everybody travelled by train. They didn't in those days, not many cars about, you know. And I suppose when the motor car came, a lot of that, you know, disappeared.
I'm going to return to the Farringford, down the ramp towards the pontoon at New Holland, and somewhere on the Farringford is Barry Stockdale.
Yes, I'm still on my little old car deck, thank you very much indeed, Robin, and with me is Ian Ingalls. Now, Ian came up to us a little earlier this evening and said, look, I've written this poem about the Humber Ferry. Now, I know for a fact, Ian, because I travel on the Humber Ferry quite regularly, so do you. About how many times a week have you been using it?
About 2 or 3 days a week for the past 7 or 8 years.
So this evening must be quite emotional for you.
It is, it's a shame. I've enjoyed all my crossings, I've enjoyed my cup of tea, sat down with the staff, and it's bad in winter when the wind blows and it's very cold and very wet and miserable, but I think I'll miss it all the same.
There's a great belief amongst the Radio Humberside staff that the ladies in the buffet on the Farringford make the best cup of tea in Humberside.
Off in the bleak midwinter, I drove my car on deck. A full-faced man with a bright blue nose said, "What the blooming heck? You'll have to back up, try again. Just put your car in there." I never thought I'd miss that man, blue nose and windswept hair. Goodbye, you Humber Ferry. I'd park my car, go to the bar for a slice of coffee, maybe a jar. Tried to find the ham inside the bread. Fell down the stairs, my face went red. The Killingham, the Castle boats, they sailed the Humber wide. They carried vans and cars and goats, they sailed on every tide. Goodbye, you Humber Ferry. In winter storms and summer sun, they sailed from pier to pier. But now the year is 1981 and the end is very near. A year ago I missed the boat, stuck on New Holland Pier, but now I'm going to miss the boat, and I'll even miss New Holland Pier. The trains they rumble down the track and rumble back again, but now the trains will cease to run, and silence soon will reign. I took my children for a ride on the boat that sailed on every tide, so to their children they can tell about the Humber Ferry. So it's goodbye Mary, goodbye Jack, goodbye Fred and Jack. Goodbye to Eric in the engine room, I'm sorry I'll never be back. Goodbye to the crossing of the ferry boats, to the men who sailed the ferry boats, to the sights you saw from the ferry boats, to the engines that moved the ferry boats, to the paddles which turned on the ferry boats, to the staff who worked on the ferry boats, to the man who sold the tickets on the ferry boats. But stop, the telegraph rings. Finish with engines, no more to ring. It's finished now, a part of the past. Goodbye, you Humber Ferries, and thanks for many a safe crossing.
Ian, I think that sums everything up. A marvellous poem. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Murray.
Over now to the bridge and Mike Cartwright, who I think is waiting to take us out of New Holland. Mike?
Yes, I am waiting to take us out, Barry, but at the moment standing with me is somebody who's going to perform a very special ceremony as we get about halfway across the river. His name's Dave Pettingale. Dave, explain, what are you going to do?
Well, as just about every other railway route that's finished since the beaching cuts has always had some notable saying or writing or even a wreath put on the front of their trains, you know. This has been going longer than just the railway company, so we've decided to put a wreath on the boats for the last night. Halfway back.
What does the wreath say, Dave?
What you leave behind, no bridge can ever span, and the names and the approximate dates of operation of all the paddle steamers that have worked on the Humber.
But how are you feeling about it being a last crossing of the river over the water, so to speak?
Oh, sad. Very sad. I've made models of the boats. I've come down to get information of them. In coming down on a night, I've got friendly with Captain King and Captain Mount, who retired last Saturday. All the crew, they've all been very good to me. You know, giving me information, and
in fact, as you
knowing that I'll never come down again, I feel very sad.
Well, having said that, Dave, on a very sad note, we'll leave you for the time being. We are, in fact, just about now casting off. We're just gently floating back there. and we're about to wave goodbye, in fact, to New Holland for the very last time, to this extraordinary old pier, this floating pier. We are now there you go. You can... As you heard there, we have in fact cast off with that amazing signal, and on that note, I'll hand back to Robin Pulford.
Thank you very much. I'm on the rear. Is it the stern they call on a ship? The back end. There isn't a blunt end, as I mentioned before. Both ends are the same on this, and the foam is beginning to churn up just at the rear end of the Farringford, and we're leaving. It's very sad, you know, it is very, very sad, looking for the very last time. Everybody's waving. They're waving from the pier, they're waving to the pier. Even the flags are looking a little bit sad because the Farringford's dressed overall, and we're making a speedy getaway. And this is the last time, the very last time, that members of the public will sail on a ship from New Holland Pier. It's all over and done with, it's finished, and it's gone forever. And that is, as we say, goodbye to New Holland. It hasn't always been a sea link operation. I've got a couple of gentlemen standing with me at the moment who, I suppose their hearts are very dull. They're aching considerably. Let me ask your name, sir.
Bernard Levis.
And yours, sir?
Fred Kidd.
And you were involved in this a long time before Sea Link became involved, weren't you?
Yes, part of my relief duties on British Rail at the pier from 1956. This was before the Sea Link took over. We used to relieve down there regularly in the parcels office and the booking office.
And you too, presumably?
Yes, a bit earlier than Bernard, though. Being a bit older in the teeth.
So, really, you're looking around yourselves today and saying, look at these Sea Link amateurs, they don't do it quite as good as we did it in our day.
I think they do the best as they can with what they've got, but in our days, the three ferries were in service, the main paddle steamers, the Lincoln Castle, the Tattershall Castle and the Wingfield, and they were very happy days that we spent down at the pier.
Looking back to those days when you were the chaps who were virtually running this service, the men on the ground, before it was taken over by the present runners, can you remember anything that was interesting? What stands out in your mind?
On these, the old paddle steamers, the Lincoln Castle and their others, one of the things that I remember was that in the first class saloon, which you gained entrance, there was two doors. I can picture now Dan Hewitt, one of the famous travelling ticket collectors that many people will remember. He would come in through one door into a packed saloon, and as they came in, about 9/10 would disappear through the other. And as a Scotsman once said, it emptied quicker than Glasgow on a flag day. It was a very funny sight to see all the people pouring out of the other door as he came in through the other.
With me now is the Humber Ferry manager. He's been manager of the Humber Ferry service for the last 4.5 years for Sea Link, and that's Mr. Ernie Fisher. Now, Ernie, you joined the service 34 years ago as a booking clerk.
That's right, yes.
Now, how many tickets were you selling 34 years ago?
Well, yeah, we were really selling thousands of tickets in those days that passengers, they were just after the war years and people hadn't had holidays and were wanting to sort of get away from it all. We were selling thousands of tickets. Literally, we were selling 2,000 and 3,000 tickets to Cleethorpes in the mornings. And then on Sundays we were carrying passengers to such an extent that in the old days when we had the Lincoln Castle, the Tattershall Castle, the Wingfield Castle, their passenger certificate was entitled us to carry 1,200 passengers. We were having to check these passengers on board and then stop when we got a full load. Also, we were running river cruises down to Grimsby with coaches from Grimsby to Cleethorpes. They carried 900, their PC allowed 900. We're sending two sailings, two vessels down. And this went on for 2, 3, 4 years. And then gradually we settled down to an even keel, but even so, we were carrying literally thousands of passengers per week.
Halcyon days, Ernie.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Admittedly, we're carrying quite a lot of passengers the last 2 or 3 weeks, but nothing in the numbers and those. But obviously, the Farringford only carries 500, whereas the Castles were carrying 1,200.
Just how much longer will you yourself be working on the ferry?
I anticipate it'll be about approximately another 3 months. Whilst we tie up all the loose ends, as it were, dispose of the assets and various other things.
Ernie, thank you very much for talking to me, and thanks for your hard work over the last 6 months as well, because I know it's been a pretty hard job.
Well, thanks very much indeed, and I'd like to thank the public very, very much for supporting us in all the years gone by.
Ernie Fisher, manager, Humber Ferry Service, thank you very much indeed.
Into the best place in the whole of the Farringford here. I'm in the buffet. And bending down and working very hard is Dennis. Dennis, come here a moment, would you please, Dennis? Here he is. Now, you're in charge tonight. Why isn't it a lady? We expect a buffet lady. Why a gentleman?
Well, I'm the overall man in charge. I don't normally sail with a vessel. Shirley, she's our steward for this evening.
How many years have you been plying to and forth from Hull to New Holland and selling sausage rolls?
Actually, it's 12 years tomorrow.
12 years tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, it must be sad. Are you going to be on the very special VIP cruise on Saturday?
I am, yeah.
So you'll just make the 12 years and a bit?
Yep, just
now,
about. Yeah.
How many sausage rolls have you sold in that time?
I have lost count.
What's the favourite thing that people want?
Pork pies, sausage rolls, coffee.
And a glass of ale?
A few glasses of ale.
How do you deal with drunks?
Well, treat them as they treat you. Talk to them nice and just don't take any notice.
Have you ever had any bother?
None, no.
None at all?
No.
Now, Shirley, how about introducing me to just one or two...
This is my friend Dot.
Hello, Dot.
Hello.
Now then, what's it like? A life on the ocean wave?
Oh, yes, we've had plenty of good laughs.
Well, it's all chaos here in the bar, and, well, taking up the invitation, perhaps the manager of BBC Radio Humberside will buy us a pint. I don't know.
Back up here again on the bridge, and for the first time for probably ever, but certainly for quite a long time, we've got a husband and wife team standing together here on the bridge. It's the skipper, Charlie King, and his wife, Brenda. Now, Brenda's normally down in the buffet, and she's just missing out on what seems to be a very busy occasion down there.
Well, you meet a lot of friends, and you make a lot of friends on the job, but sometimes you meet some nasty ones, very nasty ones.
They get a bit rude to you sometimes, do they?
Yes, they do, and they don't like it when you give it back to them.
Now, you and I have been friends for quite a time. You've never been rude to me, have you?
No, Mr. Cartwright, I haven't, because you're a very good friend of mine.
And you make the finest cup of bovril in the world, don't you?
Of course.
Brenda, any particular problems about Charlie's the skipper? You're both working on the same boat. Obviously, you're not in the same place, but is it difficult at all?
Sometimes it is, especially when you're not on the same shift. You've got to say cheerio, see you when you're coming home, and that's it. Or see you later. That's it. You know.
Do you actually see much of each other during the day?
No. No, he's up here and I'm down there, and we're not allowed to really come up here at all.
He was telling me a bit earlier that you occasionally brought him a cuppa, though.
Now and again, I used to bring who's ever on the wheel a cup of tea, and that's it.
No special treatment for husbands, then?
No, definitely not. No special treatment for husband at all.
Well, just coming over to you, Charlie, I mean, what does it feel like now, actually having the missus up here keeping an eye on you?
Oh, well, I'm fairly easygoing, you know. I don't get uptight about much, and I let her have her say, and if it pleases her, and that's it, you know.
Does she ever give you any bother when you're up here?
No, not really. She never comes up, actually. She has her job to do, and I have mine, and actually, when we're at work, you know, we're not really like husband and wife.
She's the boss, is she?
No, that's when we're home.
A generally very happy working relationship between husband and wife, is it?
Yes, well, as I just said, we don't really look upon husband and wife not when we're at work. She has her job and I have mine, and, you know, I don't treat her any different to... she gets no favours if she does anything wrong. Of course, I have to tell her the same as I'd tell any other member of the crew. Well, and I get it in the neck when I get home.
Brenda, just a final word from you. I mean, you're now up here looking out from the bridge and feeling a bit masterful. What does it feel like?
Well, it feels quite good. I think I could do the same job as some of the wheelmen, really, if I was trained.
That brought a look of disgust from over there. Now back to you, Barry Stockdale.
Thank you very much indeed, Mike Cartwright. Knowing both Charlie and his good wife, Brenda, I can imagine the look on Charlie's face up on the bridge. Well, here on the car deck, I can see that we're more or less turning now towards Hull Corporation Pier, or for the purists, Victoria Pier, and I'm joined by Brian Whitty of the Humber Paddle Steamer Trust. Now, Brian, you're one of the people who are involved in taking the old Lincoln Castle paddle steamer from the docks to its final resting place in the shadow of the bridge.
I was indeed. I was the last one to take a pedal cycle on her. We had a wonderful day. My interest, though, is more about the problems of cyclists. My immediate interest now, the problems of cyclists in getting across the Humber with no ferry to convey them. It's been expensive enough more recently, but with no ferry to take them across, they'll be stuck with no means of crossing the bridge for at least 3 weeks, and who knows if that deadline will be reached.
And as we come in towards Victoria Pier, Hull Corporation Pier for the last time, let's let Charlie King and Mike Cartwright take us in, shall we? Up to the bridge now, and Mike Cartwright.
Thank you, Barry. And as you just heard, that long, probably forlorn note on the Farringford's hooter, which is now coming into Hull Corporation Pier for the very last time. Charlie King, in fact, standing by me, he was wiping his eyes there, but I don't think he was actually crying. Charlie, as we approach the blue Corporation Pier, they're surrounded by the old, now dilapidated piling. What are your feelings at this moment? It's the very last time the Farringford's docking with a ship full of passengers.
Well, after 15 years and docking it countless thousands of it, I mean, I wouldn't attempt to even try and work out how many times I've brought the ship alongside Hull Pier. I don't think it's really sunk in yet that this is really the last time, but obviously it is, and it's on to pastures new now, as far as I'm concerned.
But you must have, obviously, you've got treasured memories and must be feeling a bit sad.
Yes, well, 15 years is a large part of your working life, and made a lot of friends here, a lot of acquaintances, and obviously I shall miss all my colleagues here. We have been really one big happy family. It's been that sort of a job.
And of course it is one of those strange things, a ferry crossing, in the sense that friendships are actually built up between staff and customers over the years as well, aren't they?
Oh yes, very much so on this crossing, especially with the commuters, people living in Hull and working on the South Bank, and people living on the South Bank and working in Hull. There's an awful lot of regular passengers, and you do get to know them and actually get on first name terms with them. You know, good morning Jack, Bill, Charlie, Sheila, whatever it is. And obviously we're going to miss it all.
Do you think you'll be keeping in touch with any of them?
Oh yes. If and when I move, we'll obviously be making trips back to see old friends and old acquaintances.
Well, as we're just pulling in here now, Charlie, just talk us again through into the docking procedure. What are we doing at the moment?
Well, we're just coming alongside the pontoon now. I'm putting the ship's engines full astern, which is the braking system of a ship, and she's now coming slowly to a stop, and any minute now we'll be going astern. I'm now stopping the engines. The vessel is now alongside the pontoon. Just the final touch astern, as we call it, to put her in a final position for the last time, which I still find hard to sink in.
And as we come to that point, Charlie, can I ask you, are you going to do any one final little act? Have you got a little party organised, or anything in particular you're going to do to mark the occasion?
Well, I should probably have a well-earned drink as soon as I'm finished, and we have Saturday, of course, to look forward to, when all the old hands will be back on this special trip we're doing, which is an invite to a lot of the old retired staff, and we'll obviously renew a lot of old acquaintances.
And how long is it before you actually do move down south?
I'm not quite sure yet, but I understand they want me to start as soon as it's convenient for me to leave here.
What kind of a vessel are you moving on to?
Well, there are a lot. It's a modern fleet. This Farringford was one of their cast-offs. They'd finished with it, and they gave it to us when we lost the two Wingfield and Tattersall. And of course the fleet down there is very modern. They're all new ships, so but I don't think it'll be any more difficult than handling this one. With the modern techniques now, I think I'll find life a lot easier.
Probably when you've actually gotten down there, Charlie, you'll feel a little bit happier.
Probably when we're all settled. You know what moving is. It's a bit of an upheaval, and right, that's it. And that's the final ring off.
And we're actually now docked, and we're ready to disembark, are we, Charlie?
Yes, for the very last time. It's disembarkation time for all these people that have come and joined us on the last trip, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Skipper Charlie King. And now back over to Barry Stockdale.
And you join me, Mike, as the drawbridge at Hull Corporation Pier lowers itself for the final time. And the 500 people on the ferry this evening don't seem all that keen actually to leave. Many of them are milling on the deck at the opposite end of the ship to me. The television crew films the final people to walk off the good ship Farringford. The end of 178 years of the Hull to New Holland ferry service. We passed the old Minerva Pier on the way in and the old rotting timbers. The wind, which was quite strong a little earlier this evening, has now dropped considerably, and that's noticeable by the fact that there is a pilot boat just to the astern of the Farringford, and the flag just twitching in the wind, and the weather vane slowly swinging round towards the north to indicate that the breeze perhaps has not died away just yet. The people milling around on the pontoon now don't seem too eager to run up the gangway. In fact, I wonder if we could have our final word, our final few notes from Robin Pulford and the people in the saloon on the Farringford.
Well, indeed, it's the end of an era, as you've just been explaining, Barry. But up here, well, we've got a glass of ale or two, or three or four, in the buffet. We're all enjoying ourselves. It's warm and it's jolly nice, and we're not going to let the good old Farringford go without a final song to give our sentiments, led by Clive Hunter.
You've been listening to the thoughts and memories of the crew and passengers on the Humber ferry vessel the Farringford as she made her final voyage across the Humber. The programme was presented by Robin Pulford, Mike Cartwright and Barry Stockdale, who also produced the programme. The director was John Jefferson and the engineer was George Orchard.